Call this talk just need for speed, because as we get into the season, you really need to start concentrating on being fast and not just being in great shape. First thing to remember is that all events have a speed component. Even the 1650, 1500 meters, even the last 50 might make the difference in a tight race. Really, the only event that is a pure sprint is the full sprint, or the 50s free and the 50s of stroke, because they are less than 35 seconds. Therefore, most events have at some point maximum speed is a vital part of the event, but it usually comes off of where you're swimming at threshold or close to threshold. And therefore, something to keep in mind is that lactate tolerance is a must, and the ability to make transitions, in other words, to accelerate in your events, is a must. So you need to be in shape, and you need to have the ability to make transitions and go to spade. We've seen and talked a little bit about this already. Let's say in a 200 event, your first 50, you're just swimming, cruise and controlled, and you make a transition to where you hold that speed from maybe to the 50 wall to the 100. I'm just generalizing here in terms of the distances. But at the 100, you might accelerate again to hold a speed that you can hold from the 100 to the 150, and then you make your final transition at the 150 mark when you figure you've got less than 35 seconds to go, and you go as hard as you can until the end of the race. And this side of the graph could either be like lactate levels or effort level or heart rates, but typically you're going to go through transitions. So when you get to the final speed phase in your events, you're actually coming off of a fairly high workload already. So pure speed by itself may not necessarily be that important unless you are just a true sprinter and you're just training for those 50 events. If you're training for those short events, typically these are well known. Everybody test sets. You might go dive 25s, you might go dive 50s, you might go dive 75s, lots of rest in between. You might go 6 rounds, depending on the swimmer and their ability to keep going and recover. You'll have to determine how much you're going to have them sprint. You can go broken hundreds and 200s, 5-10 seconds rest at the 25s or 50s. But typically what you're doing is you are doing short, fast swims at high speeds, hopefully higher than what you would actually be holding for your 100 pace, 200 pace, with a lot of rest and recovery in between. And that just helps the body learn how to really swim fast, because again, it's a learned response, and you're recruiting muscle fibers, and you're gaining an adaptation that occurs from that type of training. But when we have to really concentrate on most of the events, what you're doing is you are coming off of a fairly high workload. At this point in the event, you might be close to threshold or near threshold, and then you have to come off of that into your highest effort levels going into the finished part of the race. Now, some things that we do to do that is we'll start out with 5 sets of 550s in 35 seconds. We'll then increase that to 6 sets, and then increase it to 7 sets. 7 sets of 550s at 35. Then, once they are able to hold that, then we'll go to 5 sets of 650s at 35, up to 6 sets of 650s at 35. So the maximum here is like 36 50s. Then the final phase that we do is we go to 5 sets of 750s at 35 seconds. And then what we do is we decrease the total number. We go from 5 sets of 750s at 35. We go down to 34 seconds. Once they make all 5 sets of 750s at 35 seconds, then we go to 34 seconds, then we go to 33 seconds, then we go to 32 seconds. We toss them a bone. What we do is when they get down to 34 seconds, then they only go 34 50s at 34 seconds. So they'll go 5 sets, and then on the last set they'll go 6 50s instead of 7, and they finish at 34. Once they're able to make all on 34, then we drop them to 33 seconds, and then they drop, you know, that final set, instead of 6, they'll go 5, and then 32 50s at 32, and you know, we continue to drop. So when they get to 30 50s at 30 seconds, they're still doing them in groups of 7, but at that point they'll do 4 sets to 28, and then they'll just do 2 at the end on 30 seconds, and they typically know that they're only doing 2, so they go fast. The fastest that we've had swimmers get to this point are like 29, 28 seconds that they can hold all the way through. And those are usually pretty accomplished swimmers. Now, what's going on here? The first part of this set, the first part of this particular sets that we are doing is we're just getting them used to swimming 50s on 35 seconds and kind of getting a physiological adaptation and getting them in shape. But in order to make every set all the way through, even early on, they learn that that first 50 can't be very hard and it can't be very fast. If they go too hard, if they go too fast, then they might have a struggle on the last one. So particularly as we get down into this final phase and as we really start to challenge them, you know, going 50s on 28 seconds, going 50s on 29 seconds, you can't go hard early of these 750s. And so not only are you getting the speed component and you're getting adaptation and you're getting kind of a plyometric increase in workloads and the amount that they're doing, they are also learning how to swim easy, fast at the beginning in order to make it at the end and still make sure that they're holding either, you know, 33 seconds or 32 seconds. They have to make all of them before they go to the next number. So this type of set really serves a lot of purpose. It teaches them to pace. They have to learn how to swim easy early in order to start, you know, to make it fast enough, particularly as they get into the 450, the 650, the 750. And they have to learn to then make those transitions on the later ones where they really have to learn to go fast. So they're coming off of high workloads as they get into it. They learn how to pace early. They learn to progress through the number of 50s that they're doing. And we've had a lot of success with this particular set. So if you take this set and apply it to like even the 200s a stroke, it really matches up well. And that's how we talk about speed, not just, you know, just being as fast as you can, but you have to be able to be as fast as you can coming off of fairly high workloads already in your events.